Islam. Yeah, let's do the prayer. Father on the left, two on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth, peace,
freedom,
and justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide, and my salvation. By night, and by day. Through His holy prophet. Noble Dwali. To be proclaimed at every meeting. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people on our side of the nation that claim it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme they can to disqualify me so they themselves may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. Faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting fund. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Ali. To the members of the Moor Science Temple of America, Islam, this is the instruction from your Prophet Noble Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good works that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and His judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to His divine Prophet, I Noble Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Ali. Islam. Noble Ali told the Moors that we honor all true and divine prophets. So today's prophet is Buddha, and there's a chapter in this book called Buddhism of Wisdom and Faith. Buddhism of Wisdom and Faith, and it's put up by Pure Land Buddhism. Pure Land Buddhism. Dialogues with the Ancient Masters. Pure Land Principles and Practice. And chapter 9, Tolerance of Adversity. General discussion of testing conditions, causes of adversity. So once we get to Noble Jwali's position, then we backtrack with the new mindset and go over all the other stuff from before. Perspective is going to be totally different after we start studying Holy Quran, mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood, things that Noble Jwali said, and then relating that to society, right? We come to the realization that Noble Jwali is the embodiment of all these people prior to him that would have been classified as prophets, right? And again, the only way that we're gonna get the correct perspective is to have the I'm not black, Negro, colored perspective, then go over the information again. Because nobody had to convince us that Buddha's a prophet. Nobody had to convince us that Muhammad's a prophet, Yahshua, Jesus, etc. So we start saying Noble Jwali, now everybody wants to question stuff, everybody wants to, you know what I mean, prove that he's that and all that stuff. They didn't ask to prove nothing about anybody else who said that they're a prophet. Right? And recognizing that that's a mechanism built in to the individual for them to not connect to their nationality and birthrights. Because we know that a hex was put on our people the way that they're asleep. Like we were talking about, I was talking with a brother earlier, and we're saying that our people are asleep like dead sleep, that, you know, you put the makeup on their face and stuff like that, and they don't wake up. And then you give them, shave their eyebrows off and all that stuff, and they don't know, bald their head and all that stuff, they don't know. They're in that kind of sleep. This how sleep they are. That even when they wake up, they're gonna go to the mirror, wash their face and all that stuff, and not even recognize what's been going on, what's about to happen, and what's been happening to them. So with the Moorish mind, we're making the connection to these individuals. It's not those guys back there and then this guy, and then they have all these different stuff that they teach. It's all one stream. It's one source that sent all these prophets, and then the line ended with Noble Jwali, because we know that there's no more to come after it, right? So, tolerance of adversity. Why we're even dealing with this as well is because so many people look at they come into the Moorish movement, and then something negative, whether it's them, somebody else, whatever like that goes on, and then they throw their birthright away in the adversity, instead of accepting that, well, it's probably time for me to take responsibility why these adverse conditions exist for me right now. So again, using the Buddhist teachings with Moorish mindset so that we can correct ourselves, because, you know, Jwali said to the Moors that I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. And then people only look at what he brought, not recognizing that everything that he brought includes all the stuff from all the other prophets. Because he's the accumulation of all of them into one. For humanity to all have one prophet, nobody has to be arguing, fighting about which prophet's the best. Because all the teachings are the same, nothing hasn't changed in any of the teachings. So classes of adversity. Masters of the past have made this observation. When vowing to perform lofty virtuous deeds or to begin cultivation, the practitioner usually encounters many obstacles that test his will and challenge his endurance. Right, so honors to the Moors who have, especially with regard to Canaanland, who have come into the Moorish movement, got their will tested, and they're still enduring in the fight of, one, liberation of our people, and two, knowing the truth about their nationality and birthrights for their self. Not anybody else's stuff. This is yours. You get in what you get out what you put in. Put in nothing, you get out nothing. It's It's not a hard formula, real easy formula. There are 4 stages in the lives of monks and nuns when they can usually expect to face obstacles: when cutting their hair and entering the monastery, when receiving the precepts, sutras, particularly sutras. Like, it's never been that loud from all that. With the door open, it's never been that loud. Right? Right, again, going back to the same thing about the obstacles. Trying to stop the whatever, Oh, well, somebody go out there, tell all the cars to stop. No, hold on, we just close the door. And, you know what I mean? Obstacle overcame. Mahayana Sutras. Mahayana Sutras. This is what. And so there are 4 stages in the lives of monks and nuns when they can usually expect to face obstacles: when cutting their hair and entering the monastery, when receiving their precepts, when studying the sutras, particularly Mahayana Sutras, and when setting everything aside to devote themselves to cultivation. Some, because they have created good conditions in the past or are especially diligent and persevering, may easily pass through the first 3 stages to reach the 4th. However, it is difficult to avoid obstructing conditions when cultivation reaches a fairly high level. For example, while an elder master of recent past was diligently engaged in meditation, his evil karma suddenly manifested itself, making him blind, deaf, and mute for 3 long weeks. Reviewing accounts of the past, this author recalls the story of a layman who built a hut in a quiet, out-of-the-way place to practice meditation. He brought along a helper to relieve him of daily chores. At the beginning, he sat in meditation for periods of 1 to 2 hours. Then he progressively increased the time until toward the end, he could sit up for 3 full days and nights, remaining all while in the deep concentration. At one point, he was in samadhi for 21 days without food or water. The helper noticed that the layman had been seated for such a long time, approached him, and saw that his breathing had stopped. His chest, moreover, showed no sign of movement as it had on previous occasions. Not realizing this was the state of profound samadhi, and thinking that the layman was dead, he buried him alive. Right? Any thoughts on that? With regard to the elder master and the layman, or the layman and the helper, who the layman was so caught up in reaching his place of nirvana or whatever like that, that he got there already, but he didn't get to experience it existence, because the individual that he brought to help him was not on that level. So Ali told the Moors, endanger your life when you hang out with stupid people or foolish people. His helper should have been a disciple of him. His helper should have been an adept that was on his level to know that, when the heart stops or whatever, I'm not dead. Don't bury me alive. Right? Any thoughts on that? Here's one. It's a lot, don't worry, if there's nothing, we'll carry on.
No, it's just thinking about what you're saying. And you mentioned that the food comment, thinking back to, I think it was 2 years ago when the Black Lives Matter was coming through, some Moors wanted to go and protest with us.
Yeah.
And we had made the comment, don't endanger your life with a fool.
Yeah.
We had that big situation with that. So
Right.
that, just like what you're saying there, where us as Moors, knowing what we know, but having someone dictate to us or assist us without proclaiming their nationality is irrelevant.
Wasted effort.
Wasted. You know what I'm saying? Because no matter what they do, if their nationality, if they still proclaim to be black, nigger, color, whatever, nobody will take us seriously.
Right.
Because you have these people, engaging in your own affairs.
And I have another way of looking at that, though, to the extent that as a
We'll have to
master,
talk up.
as a master who had then transcended, let's say, the physicality behind things, since we were talking about this earlier, really his earthly husk had no real use for him, obviously.
Mm.
And therefore, I mean, ultimately, who knows? Maybe he would have just passed. Maybe he would have just passed for him anyways. Right? Maybe that's where he was at that point.
Right.
We've seen lots of media about that. But another thought that I had says that I think it's also a warning too for, let's say, those masters who, like you're saying, are engaging around people that maybe aren't on that level.
Yeah.
And they can be sources like he should have been doing that on his own.
Right. Right.
All right. He needs to maybe have been at the level where he's at, where a man doesn't see you breathing for a couple minutes and thinks it's time to kill you, right?
Yeah.
So that also sort of triggers some of that response.
Another case. There was a Pure Land master who practiced assiduously reciting the Buddha's name up to 100,000 times each day. Thanks to such diligence, he would appear wherever he went. One day, a vagrant appeared requesting permission to stay overnight at the temple. The man and told his young assistant, "This man has the features of a criminal. Let him eat his fill and tell him go elsewhere." However, the novice, being compassionate, was swayed by the man's repeated supplications and did not have the heart to follow his master's instructions. Sure enough, a few days later, the man slipped furtively into the master's room in the middle of the night, broke his arms and legs, and killed him. He then stole a few things from the temple and disappeared.
That's what I'm saying, right? What was his purpose? Was his purpose to learn, or his purpose was just to take care?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's incumbent upon a lot of us to understand who we deal with, who we're following around. It's like you're with your friends. You're not a thief, but your friends are thieves.
Yeah.
If they get caught, you're caught too.
Right.
You're with them.
Guilty by association.
Exactly. Same thing.
Never fails.
Never.
The ancients have commented that such occurrences are the result of fixed karma and are virtually unavoidable. Cultivators usually face three types of obstacles: afflictions, the obstacle of karma, and the obstacle of retribution, with the obstacle of karma being the most dangerous. Yet nothing usually happens when the practitioner first begins to cultivate, while the deeper his cultivation, the more obstacles he is bound to encounter. Why is this so? It is because, as common people living in the Dharma ending age, most of us naturally have heavy obstructed conditions. If not, we would have been reborn in the Dharma semblance age or the perfect Dharma age. However, it is not cultivation that gives rise to obstacles, but rather a phenomenon known as reshuffling of karma. Heavy karma is commuted into light karma. Future karma is reshuffled into current karma. Let us suppose that we have 10 parts of bad karma, but But that through cultivation, we managed to eradicate 7 parts so that only 3 parts remain. Instead of having to repay that karma in the future, we will only have to endure like retribution in this very life, and thus be free to attain liberation swiftly. And so even in the Buddhist teachings, the idea of being liberated, the idea of evolving, is based in the same teachings. Man taking himself from a lower self and putting his mind at work instead of working with lower things. Let the mind do the work, because as a man thinketh, so is he. Well, if a man's thinking warps, then everything that he manifests is going to be from a warped perspective, including his liberation. Because it has to be understood that when we talk about cultivation, always relate things relative to spirituality to nature, so that it can be broken down to its basic perspective. So if you think about cultivating vegetation, you think about cultivating vegetation and relating that to your spiritual evolution, your spiritual upliftment, your spiritual liberation, the perspective would be different, because fruits and plants and vegetation is around us all the time. But spiritual beings might not be. People with higher minds and things like that might not be in direct contact with us, but a river is close, a tree, anything to do with nature. And then studying that thing is going to show you the perspective that you could also look at yourself. Because being that we're quote unquote natural people, then we are in tune with nature, so we can learn from that too. As well as books, as well as things celestial, as well as individuals' interactions. Hence, there being so-called masters, and then people who want to learn that will follow the steps of these people, because they can see that they made it to a certain plateau. And everybody's position is everybody should have an individual that they look at as somewhere that's reachable for them to raise themselves to. And then in turn to be an example for other people who are watching them to see, well, if he can make it there. They don't know, like the individual that's on the track, the individual that's on the path, that sees the light, doesn't know that people are watching them go for the light. People aren't seeing the light. People are seeing that individual going toward the light. And if that individual is vibrating on the right frequency going towards the light, then they're going to attract other people to go towards the light. And again, when we're talking about the whole idea of the karma and the reshuffling, majority of people who say that they're Moorish American, they're not Negro black colored, and they have this as a realization in their life that they're correcting themselves when they say black. People say black, they correct themselves. Correct people when they say that they're white. They have a certain mindset with regard to how things are supposed to run and how things are running, and that they're going to do everything that they can to try to put certain things right. These individuals know, like Brother Omar was talking about when we're coming here, that we are people who we're coming here again. We know that this time was going to come where not just Negro black colored people, but the world is going to be dumbed down. And just like in the past, the only people that's going to get people out the dark ages is going to be the Moors. It's not going to be the blacks, the African, Egyptian, whoever. Egypt fell however long ago. Hebrews, their stuff's gone a long time ago. Name them, whatever they claim. We have to come to the realization that yes, we are living in this time. We are living in this time of the Renaissance. these are the dark ages right now. Like these are the times when we read in history books and say, the dark ages, and people were just doing whatever. And there was no knowledge. Everybody was dumbed down. Kings and queens lived in barns and stuff like that, talking about, they're sovereign, but they live in their mom's apartment. They're an empire, but they don't have nothing to show that they're empire but some pictures with some people holding up some fake flag. They're empire though. Right? It's the time of illusion. It's the time of darkness right now. Right? And because this is the time of darkness, right? Just because this is the time of darkness, it's going to happen where the Moors have to present themselves. Because the only people to bring the people out the Renaissance is the Moors. Right? All right. So keep in mind, obstacles we experiencing are directly related to our spiritual evolution. Right? What we're experiencing that we might think is a challenge or whatever like that in our life is directly related to our spiritual evolution. And we have to be the ones to recognize that. We have to be the ones to recognize that, okay, it's spiritual evolution. I'm evolving spiritually. So these things are happening to test where I am. Right? There's not going to be some, even though this exists, right? But there's not, the concept isn't, you're going to get some tests from somebody and then you fail the test and then you get a mark and then now you're whatever. Like life is the test. Paper test is just, what has to be done. The hope with the paper test is that if you realize you got 100%, that you're going to apply what you just got 100% in. You're not going to get 100% on something and then apply something that you don't know. Why not apply the stuff that you just got 100% on? And continue to master that, or quote unquote cultivate that. That's if you get the test. But again, if you're dealing with life from I'm not Negro, black, colored as a statement standing up for your birthright and your nationality and your culture, then the test is going to be out here. Test is not going to be, there's no test that anybody's going to give you that's going to be harder than somebody trying to get you go in your lower self and you don't do it. Forget book tests. Somebody put the briefcase in front of you and they tell you do something to whatever with your nation or your culture, or do some BS with the birthright, and you'll see who's who based on what they do with the briefcase. So everybody's going to be tested and challenged to see where they are on the path, right? They're going to be tested to see where they are. And, in this day and age, failing a test might mean losing your life in this time. So keep your mind open to the fact that it has to be about raising your vibration. It has to be about that.
I want to add that I think sometimes, I speak for myself, there's a time where I probably wasn't studying as much, and I think certain things happen, like say you get pulled down by the highwayman and then you have to be in a certain situation, or you get something that you're demanding to pay or else. And I think these things, where we're not, make us have to be active if we want to, if you want to do it the sure way and not pay or whatever the case is. But sometimes I think the ancestors, they give us obstacle to test us. we could actually, it forces us to be active in a way than before when we were just kind of just going through the motions.
Love. For example, in one of his previous lives, an elder precept master had been a monarch who had waged many wars to conquer neighboring kingdoms. Having committed such great karma of killing, he was destined to descend into the hells once his residual merits were exhausted. However, thanks to the master's earnest cultivation and propagation of the Dharma, his evil karma was commuted into daily bouts of seizures, which made him feel as though many invisible swords were stabbing and slashing his body. This went on for 2 years before the disease disappeared. Right? So think about how many people have come into this existence with some type of ailment or whatever, and not realizing that that ailment might not be something that's passed down. Their family had it, now they got it. It could be million years ago stuff that they did that came back in their life as seizures. You know, somebody always, you know, when they talk about the stuff about, you know, oh, the good die young or whatever. What are they doing this past stuff? That, you know, time came and it's time to go. Doesn't matter about what you feel, how kind of relationship you have with them, or whatever like that. All that stuff is irrelevant when you look at the grand scheme. And recognizing that in the grand scheme, all of us are supposed to perceive it and learn something to go from this level to the next level, or come back here to go through the same stuff again. Now we already know that we're not Negro black color. Like we came into this information knowing that before we got that lesson. Majority of people who say that they're Moors, they knew that they weren't black, even when they were saying black and I'm black or whatever like that. Something in them, they knew that that wasn't really who they were. Right? And then to come into this information, you come to the realization that you've been doing all this stuff. You already knew. You know, all the brothers used to get the t-shirt tied on their head. You know, they were still on the corner with a tied t-shirt on their head. There's a turban. And now realize that, you know, white shirts down here is Muslim culture. And missing it, again, because they have no connection to the divine. Spiritual workings that make all the earthly things be something. And once you realize that there's a unification of these two worlds, right? There's an actual harmony. You know, like when every time they say they go down this line of duality, and they always talk about masculine, feminine principles, and then the harmony of masculine and feminine. Always look at that as spiritual and physical as well. Not just that aspect. Even if they're showing you masculine, feminine, it's spiritual and physical. Right. So again, broaden the perspective, because about the perspective that we have, realize what it is what we're going to have to do to get out of what we're in. Remember, we go back again to Juali, and he said that he brought everything it takes for us to save a nation, and we should take that and save ourselves with it. The simple fact that it could save a nation. So if this could save a nation, then we might as well to self. And then again, why do we honor all true and divine prophets? Because all those true and divine prophets have people that follow them. Now, when we go look at the example of the people who follow Buddha, the people who follow Krishna, the people who follow whatever they say that they follow, when we look at them, the ones that actually take the teachings, whatever, they don't have no problems in their life or whatever. Stuff's good for them. They got their own communities and all that. They're not even worried about what's going on in the world. Because if there's a blood shortage, they got their own blood bank they can go to. Ain't worried about what's going on in the world. If they say no food in the world, they got their own stuff that they've been stacking up food for the past 20 years. They got underground bunker with food. Quote unquote other nations that have prophets that are mentioned by our prophet that, you know, we should probably consider some of this stuff. Right? Apart from the obstacles caused by external factors, there are three other causes of karmic obstructions. One, according to the mind-only school, various evil and wholesome karmic seeds are destroyed randomly in our alaya consciousness. When we recite the Buddha's name or meditate, we accumulate the seeds of transcendental virtues. Evil karmic seeds have to emerge. For example, if a dense forest full of wild beasts is cleared for habitation, trees and shrubs are cut down, causing these beasts to flee out of the forest. The development of afflictions and obstacles from evil karmic seeds is similar. This is called reaction of evil karmic seeds. Okay, so according to the mind-only school, various evil and wholesome karmic seeds are stored randomly in our alaya consciousness. So we have this school of thought in Buddhism known as alaya consciousness, and that's one of the 8 consciousness. You just look up Buddhism 8 consciousness, and then all this is going to come up. So their symbol, to show you how everything's tied to us, their symbol, the 8 consciousness, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8 consciousness on a wheel that looks like right? The 8 consciousness is on a wheel that looks like the navigation wheel on a boat. Now again, we're tying this back to Noble Juali telling us, going back to the ancient foremothers and forefathers mindset. And then when we go back to an aspect of the Buddhist mindset, the symbol of the place representing reaching the high levels of thought is manifest in a navigation wheel on a ship, for a ship. And we already know that the only people that navigated the seas were the Moors. Right? Now this is in Buddhist teachings, that they're making the connection to being tied to our stuff. Right? They're making the connection to being tied to our stuff. They're putting the diagram out. Because everything is based in Moorish science. They might call them different people in ancient times, but the lessons that were taught can all be brought into the modern time under these people called Moors. Nobody else in the world. And then these people called Moors encompass continents, not just from one area on one continent. These people had this information and they went everywhere in the world with this information. Hence why, you know what I mean? Again, Juali coming, tying everything back. You know, we honor true and divine prophets. Buddha, whatever, so that Moors could know that those are your prophets too. Don't look at them as those are those guys' stuff. Those are your prophets. Those teachings that those people's prophets have are your teachings, Moors. And it's for you to take those teachings because they're your teachings. Those people who have it, they're not going to do with it what they're really supposed to do with it. Right? There are cultivators who practice without fully understanding the Dharma, not realizing that the manifestations of the mind and the environment, are illusory, nor discovering what is true and what is false. They therefore have wrong views. Because of this, they develop thoughts of attachment, happiness, love, worry, and fear, creating obstacles for themselves when they are faced with objects and conditions within themselves or in the outside world. Cultivators who practice without fully understanding the Dharma, not realizing that the manifestations of the mind and the environment are illusory, or discovering what is true and what is false. So it's the same thing that we say why you have to study. Because in studying, you're going to know what all the pieces on the board are, so people can't come and put fake pieces on the board and try to tell you, let's play the game. Because you already know that those pieces don't belong in there. Why are you bringing that in? If you study, you know that without fully understanding the Dharma, without fully understanding the nationality and birthrights, not realizing that the manifestations of the mind and the environment are illusory, nor discovering what is true and what is false. They therefore have wrong views. So people don't have 101 questionnaire and then come up and say, you know, green flag, red star. This is the real Moorish flag because, you know, the ancestors of whoever said that, and then this is the real flag. Forget the red flag and the green star. So having the foundation of 101 questionnaire, no duality telling you, well, it's a red flag with a green 5-point star, how long it goes back, and then you're gonna check. And then Morocco in North Africa, they just got that flag in 1915. Not their flag. If Juali said that flag's 10,000 years old. Moors who don't have enough faith to stand up on this are going to tell people that this isn't the flag, this is the mother flag, and then we created this flag for you because this is really the flag that Noble Juali wanted you to fly, and you believe them, you're a damn fool. Because clearly 10,000 years old. So if somebody says they have this flag and their record said we got this in 1915, and on top of that, how come they're not going at them for claiming this in 1915 when their prophet claimed it in 1913? If Noble Juali claimed this in 1913 and then Kingdom of Morocco claimed this in 1915, whose flag is this?
1956.
No, like 1915. Yeah.
No, but didn't they come on?
They came out of their French protectorate in 56.
Oh, okay.
But the actual kingdom, 1915. Still, so it's still after Noble Juali. Right? Oh yeah, and then if there's Morocco, Indiana in 1851, if there's Morocco, Indiana in 1851, like something has to let people realize that what Moors are saying is really where it's at, right? Where Moors are at is really where this thing is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be the confusion happening. But recognize that all of this is happening from these same individuals who are not fully in their higher self. They're maybe in between there because they have enough knowledge to be Moors, have fezzes on, turbans and all that stuff, but they choose to go against what, and they continue to go with the illusion, and then push the illusion to have people who don't have anything to do with this see this and not even approach it because, you know, whoever they're looking at as all the Moors. Probably point whatever percent of Moors, on top of the fact they're not doing anything right for the nation or whatever. Why are you even using them? These people, they're not going to use the as an example of who Chinese are. They don't use the dirty people as the example of the nation. But when it comes to Moors, that's all they can show. 2005, 2006, Jabbar Gaines L. writing articles to Southern Poverty Law Center about the same sovereignty stuff that they just tried to pull yesterday. Like a Moor dealing with the exact same stuff that they're trying to pull right now. Those Moors in Chicago. And they evaded tax, more sovereign citizen, whatever, and all that. That same idea is the same idea that French and Flowers tried to do, right? When Moors were claiming houses and all that type of stuff was in the news and all that. They had their little campaign, again, trying to make that tie. Now, how is it from 2007, these people are doing the same campaign? They didn't change anything. They're still trying to say Moors are a sovereign citizen. You want a Moor stood up for it, said something about it, addressed it. They're still coming with this idea that, oh no, you know, there's who are sovereign citizens and all that stuff, when that's an illusion. That's only negative propaganda. Only. As soon as it's said, and again, because you go on the record, go look for the article called Sovereigns in Black, right? Go on YouTube, put in Jabbar Gaines L. and Sovereigns in Black, something like that. Class will come up 7 years ago that he did, where he personally addressed it because these were things that were happening in his territory. And then when he's looking around, you know what I mean? There's all these Moors out here. When they say, yeah, we're bringing Taj for a lecture and we're bringing whoever for a lecture, all these Moors come in or whatever like that. But then when these foreigners start talking BS about Moors, they know Moors writing nothing to these people. Like no more. Okay, so we say, Taj coming for a lecture, 100 people come out. And then we say, write a writ to the whoever because they're talking BS, and then 5 people write a writ. What about those other 95 people? Where are they at? But if you're coming to a Taj lecture, clearly you have some type of knowledge or whatever. This is not some game. Right? Clearly this is not some game. So there has to be some accountability to the ones who take the position of, you know, trying to make this look like it's confusing to people when it's really not that confusing. It's real simple. And all it takes is for people to think. Once they think, they'll save themselves. Right. Any questions, comments?
You're saying we should just assert ourselves as Moors?
But you have to assert yourself with the right mindset. You have to assert yourself understanding fully the Dharma. You have to fully comprehend before you start asserting.
Can you elaborate more on the sovereign and the citizen part and the big one?
When the whole idea of sovereign citizen, whatever came out, it was based on the Europeans who were mad with other Europeans for getting rid of the Republic. and bringing in democracy. And these Europeans wanted to go back to the ways of the Republic. Now, their problem is that they can't go back to the ways of the Republic because they're not the sovereign. They're members of. Now, 13 colonies, they got sovereignty. You want to go back there and do some free man on the land, whatever, go right ahead. Don't forget, you'll have Moors there to deal with when they go back there. Because Moors are claiming their birthright along all those colonies. North Carolina is mad Moors. You know what I mean? Carolinas is Moors, right? Going all up, Virginia, New York, all that, you know that there's Moors there. So they're going to have an issue playing that, we're sovereign or whatever like that, in the 13 colonies with Moors there. Now, the perspective that the Europeans are supposed to have, interestingly that you bring that up, we'll just read this, just so that the Europeans and sovereign whatever, right? So this is a quote, big quotes from a European. Now, this European is somebody that was welcomed into the fold of the Moorish family because the European recognizes who the Moors are. It's not no secret or whatever like that. It's not, you know what I mean? Well, I'm gonna take this Moorish information and go over here and I'm gonna do some whatever like that, right? So this is Brother Latif Bey's quote, right? That was his Facebook post this morning, and probably got 2 likes or something like that. Right? Europeans, stop thinking ownership of land and resources comes by who has the greatest force to take it. It comes by way of inheritance through the bloodline, not by cheating and genocide. This is a European. Now that's the perspective that they're supposed to have if they're saying that they're quote unquote sovereign citizens, because the only way that they would be a sovereign citizen is by sovereigns, which would be the Moors. And then the little bit of sovereignty that we give them would be how they would exercise as quote unquote citizens in Moorish dominions, right? Again, going back to the whole concept of this is the Renaissance right now. So everybody's going to be coming to us for saving, whether we like it or not. They can pretend like this is their stuff or whatever like that, they're sovereign or whatever, but that's, right? And again, right, again, look, this is Brother Latif, this is supposed to be the perspective that Europeans who say that they're sovereign citizens and free man on the land, child of God, we are energy and all that stuff, we don't need a license and all that, but they don't have a nationality. Okay, cool. We get the idea that they're coming with, right? Because yes, we know that those people are a democracy, they're not really a republic or whatever like that, and they're robbing you guys. You know, when life was good, you guys weren't complaining. You know, when everybody had the little slave girl that they could go in the barn and do the whatever like that, there was no argument. More are starting to wake up now, which means that, you know, they're gonna have to start giving back the sovereignty because they can't say that they're sovereign, but then right? The only reason they can say it, just like they can't say that they're American. The only reason they can say that they're American because we're not saying we're American. But if we start saying that we're American, and then they're saying that they're American, the world's gonna realize the contradiction. Because only one people are the American, right? Right. So September 16th, I attended a community gathering at Pritchard Community Center where there was a good number of Europeans. The Morris I was with was speaking regarding the events taking place in Texas, St. Louis, etc. One European made the statement, "We are all Americans and color doesn't matter." If they were aware of nationality, and they replied yes. She then asked, what was their nationality? They answered American. The sister then walked over to me and said, let them know the truth. Remember, he's a European, right? I had a pamphlet in my hand full of civics, and the sister put the definition of American on the wall. I read the American definition, copper-toned peoples found by Europeans, and then began reading Trott versus Dawes, as well as other literature. I told them, it is not an attack, as I am your brother, but we are not American, for our bloodline comes from Europe. I said, being born here does not make you American, for if I was born in China, I would not be Chinese. I then began talking on white, and that white is one shade, no light, white, dark white. Then read the definition of white with no Caucasian included. The crowd began speaking to one another, confused as to why they never heard of it this way in any teachings. One European said out loud, "This man is Jesus." The rest of the crowd began asking questions as to where I got this information. Then I told them I'm a student of the Moors, and sister began to tell them about the Moors and Prophet Noble Juali. Another European brother then said he is all about Noble Juali. Islam to all the Moors that are active in this movement.
It reminds me of one of the in the Quran talks about how, you know, when Jesus is in the crowd with the Hindus.
Yeah.
And then they're talking amongst themselves, and he's speaking, and they're amazed, you know. The whole crowd just like, who's this guy?
Who is
you know,
this guy? Yeah.
He's the, you know, and he's like, some people are saying he's a madman, and he's like, and then next some people are saying he's like the guy from heaven, you know. It's,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
This example fits in with that, you know.
And again, that was a European telling them. A European telling Europeans, you know, you guys are American. You guys are European. And there was no drag him down off this thing or whatever like that, stone him, get him out of here or nothing like that. Because they already know what's up. Their own telling them is different. You know what I mean? Which is why we push their own that tell them. You know what I mean? We push the Peter Moons and the Rick Smiths and the Latif Beys and these people. Because they're letting these Europeans know what's up. Not out of hate. They're telling them because, you know, you're my brother. Like, I don't want you to get in the King Alfred plan and stuff like that. You playing around? You really think that this is not, you really think this is like something based in some fiction? This is really based in reality. I mean, this is really based in recognizing something that has been put there for us that we never really considered because nobody really put it to us how it's supposed to be put. Everybody playing some type of game, make up a flag, make up some cards and say that this is what it is or whatever. Have people chasing all this type of stuff when all they could do is just study. You don't gotta go to rvdpublication.com, go to the library for 8 hours. Just go to the lady at the desk, ask her, I need every book in here about the Moor. Look how funny she's gonna look at you because you're asking for that. And then when she takes you to the section, right, and she shows you those ones, bet you she's gonna come back and tell you about some other stuff that's somewhere down in some room down wherever like that. It's dusty. If you want to go down there and search through those books, you can, feel free. But they're not going for you.
Why do you say that? When I first started doing my studies, I went down to the library downtown. Typed, you know, Moors, whatever. I was looking for the Sesame Trust, for instance. Where can I find information on that? So gave me all the reference points to go look, whatever. Then it says there's a particular room I have to go to. So I'm like, where's this room? So she looks at me funny. She's like, why do you want that room for? I said, well, that's what it says for me to go look for this particular document. So she's like, well, only researchers go to that room. I was like, really?
That's what I'm doing here.
So she takes me up, it was on the 6th floor, so I go up there, and sure enough, this is a room, none of those books in there could come out or anything. You would only go in,
Study.
do your study in there, because you can't take those books out. These books are the old dictionaries and stuff. So she asked me, she says, why do you want to study this stuff? I said, well, this is on Moors and stuff? He's like, yeah, this is some of the older books. She's like, oh, okay. Well, you know you can't take it out, right? But this is what I found out. I said, what did I get? Can I sign it out? She's like, nope. Stays in here. You know what I'm saying?
Closed door session.
Right? So again, this is it's like a vacuum room. Like all the books are old or whatever, so they don't want to get damaged or whatnot. But that's what happens once you start really, really studying. Remember, Brother Sheldon was talking about this. When you go to the museum, there's certain, for you to get into that museum, you got to call ahead before you could go there to go into particular rooms. So they don't want anybody looking at it. You know, the average person is not going to really know what they're looking at.
Well, of course not. They spend billions of dollars for you not to know.
Yeah.
That's it.
The point is, how many you not know?
Yeah. I just want to add as well, as you say that, there was a little boy by this last week.
Yeah.
So she was at the library at her school, and she was just looking through some books, and she saw a book, and it says, Moors of Spain, or Spain and Moors, or something like that. She goes, oh, I want to take this book out. She goes, no, you can't take this book out. She goes, why? Because this book this is one of the books you can't sign out.
Yeah.
And then she goes, and then she's like, oh, really? Okay, well, I'll just let you sign out this time.
Wow.
Yeah, right. That's
Books
that.
there, and it's this big book. It has like
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
That's that mason ring stuff right there. That's that
Record
mason
the
ring.
book on your phone. I think on the page is down.
No, where I went, there's cameras everywhere. You're not allowed to.
No, they say you have the book.
Oh.
So before he gives it back.
Yeah.
Wrong
Yeah.
book.
Track that shit.
But again,
We lost the book.
but again, that's the information. Like most of this information with Todd and those guys, that's what they have to do.
Yeah.
Go to libraries and photocopy.
Yeah, but this is like a public school library. It's not like some big.
Yeah.
It's like
This is
for
like in
it's the public school.
public school.
Public
You're
school.
supposed to be able to take them back to the top here.
That's where it has to start.
Yeah.
Learn that from that.
Right. Dima.
Panama.
Oh, this is long to the Panama Moors.
Okay, my
Call it
brother.
Canaanland.
Hang on a second.
Just get a number.
Um,
There's no speaker on that.
okay. Give me a pen.
Yeah, we'll call him later.
He's like,
Call
yeah,
them
you
later.
need, but just in class.
Just don't go on the
September
YouTube.
date is
Just don't go on the YouTube. It's live. Demonic testing conditions.
Yeah.
The karmic conditions that test and create obstacles for the practitioner manifestations, I will summarize them in 6 points. 1. Internal testing conditions. During cultivation, some people suddenly develop thoughts of greed, anger, lust, jealousy, scorn, or doubt. Doesn't that sound like the same lower self stuff Noble Drew Ali told the Moors? The lower self breeds certain stuff? Right? Okay. They may also suffer delusion, leading to drowsiness and sleep. Remember, these are the internal testing conditions. So when you are coming into yourself, when you're coming into realizing who you are, and you bump into greed, anger, lust, jealousy, scorn, doubt, delusion, drowsiness, know that sleep's coming. Know that in this day and age, we're talking to I can't remember who I was talking to. Who was I talking to? But we're talking about how you can come to the line and say, okay, I'm going to go into my nationality and birthrights and play around like, you know, this is just some group or whatever like that. I don't take this serious. I want to still say black, whatever like that. Know that you're going to, know that when you fall, it's not going to be that easy to get back to the line. when you say, like for example, 10 years ago, for example, when we came in, the ancestors weren't really strict with people. People were kind of loose.
Okay.
They can come into this, you know what I mean? Do whatever, come back a few, months later, years later or whatever, you know what I mean? And you realize that there's no change in them. They're still the same people that they were when they first came in, right? Now, there's no people go for 4 months and then they come back. Once they're gone, they're gone. And then a year later, you're going to bump into them somewhere and now they're saying they're African. Or they're saying that they're some other whatever. After they had information that about nationality, birthrights, they were Moors, proclaimed their nationality, had LB and all that. So recognize that, the conditions that are set up when you're raising your vibration, the conditions are meant for you to fail. Because if you can't get through this little BS right here, we definitely can't use you when it's time to go do some real stuff. Go in the mayor's office, go sit on top of him, go talk to a premier, go talk to a prime minister or whatever. Right? Weak hearts can't go. It's nothing personal, but energy talks. And there's no lopsided energy people that are going to be a benefit to the Moorish movement. That's why you just put those people in the corner. If they want to remain passive, just let them be the passive people that just sit there and do nothing. It's all right. No problem. That's why we're here. So that these passive people who don't want to put in the work could still benefit off the birthright because dues been paid on their behalf. Right? Them including people who Negro black color that even don't want none with this. Right? That they can get into all those situations that they're more and then, you're more? Yeah, oh sorry about that. And then you're not even gonna bother with them. It's gonna get to that place. But it's gonna be for those people to have that experience, recognize that like that's what this is about. Let me go find some Moors ASAP and start getting down and getting our mind and their mind in the same place.
Yesterday, a guy told me in this time.
Yeah.
I started to explain something and he said, man, I'm here 17 years and I never get this now. Never get this now. I'm here 17 years.
Right.
So break it right down to show him how they even change their names over here.
Yeah.
And they come here and give us that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You see, they never know.
And and those people, they went through that under the guise that they're being Canadian.
Right.
They know that they're selling their birthright for foreign power, who they know are foreigners. They know for a fact that these guys are foreigners. How they know? Because they came to their stuff, made corporations, call it India and stuff like that, have them think that that's country.
Yeah.
You create caste system and all that stuff, dark people on the bottom, light ones on the top and all that. And then now those same light ones, when they get to the level of being quote unquote, they could send them over here and then they could play Hispanic. And you wouldn't even know that they're from India. You'll be looking at somebody and you think they're from Hindustan. They're from Nicaragua or whatever. Right? Because everybody knows that this is the land of milk and honey. If you can blend in here, like you're good. Why? Because once you got hair, liquor, whatever like that, Negroes out here, they'll make you a billionaire tomorrow from a convenience store. How come the convenience store guy has a Benz or whatever? Convenience store guy. Like why? Well, like how come he has a house in Brampton or something like that? He has a convenience store. And then, we're going there.
The store is not his house. It's over here.
Yeah, right? We're going there, you know what I mean? We're gonna buy some jujubes and stuff like that, sour worms and sour keys and stuff, right? And then we go there, we're taking our children there or whatever, and then his son's running the shop now. You don't see something's wrong, and it's not even in their community, it's in ours. We don't recognize something. Right? And then what we recognize is not that they can do it and we have so many obstacles. No, we have no status. So anything we do is going to fail. Nothing we do is going to amount to anything because we're not dealing with based on national principles. And on top of that, we had these testing conditions to get us from low level to high level, and we failed miserably. That we feel so bad that ancestors are even turning their back on our people right now. They think that they got ancestors, so-called Negro black colored people. They think that they did Kwanzaa or stuff like that. Their ancestors honor them.
Some people will say
FBI agent created Kwanzaa, and ancestors are looking at them like they honor the ancestors.
It's just funny, like they know an FBI agent did it.
Right?
They know.
FBI agent made them African American. Ancestors are looking at.
Happy Kwanzaa.
You know what I'm saying? They know this, but they still follow it. Man, it's just.
They can spell Coochie Chagalia and they're freaking African all of a sudden. These thoughts sometimes arise with great intensity, making the practitioner feel annoyed and upset over, at times, trivial matters. So, like you're a Moorish American, you know what I mean? Stand birthrights, 500 left, 200 right, standing on the square or whatever like that, and then some little BS happened, and then you're mad and all that. Trivial matters, being annoyed and all that stuff, all these things are signs that the conditions are being prepared or whatever for you to get tested. When you start looking out there and you realize that everything out here has you pissed off and all that, know that the conditions are being prepared because you're about to go to get tested, to go to the next level of thought, to raise your vibration to the next level. Because if you can get past this, then obviously you're ready for the next level. If you can pass the test, which is not going to be some paper on a desk and pencil, A, B, C, D, and that's the test. All right? The test is going to be right here in your existence. Sometimes auspicious and evil events alternate in dreams. The specific details of these events are too numerous to be described. Faced with these occurrences, the practitioner should realize that these karmic marks have appeared as a consequence of his cultivation. You should immediately understand that all karmic occurrences and marks are illusory and dreamlike. He should foster right thought, and they will disappear after one another. They will disappear one after another. Otherwise, he will certainly be swayed, though lose his concentration and retrogress. The ancients used to say in this respect, do not fear an early manifestation of evil karma. Fear only a late awakening. Do not fear early manifestations of evil karma. Right? So don't worry about the stuff that's coming or whatever. Or I did something and oh my God, what's gonna happen? I can't wait for this thing to happen. Right? Fear not realizing why you went through that. Fear learning late. Fear being given all these keys and then putting them down, thought that they meant nothing. And then a year later, all these keys coming back up again. And now you having to choose now what you're gonna do. And there's no options. There's no You know what I mean? Leeway. It's one or the other. There's zero leeway, right? Sometimes the practitioner in the midst of intense cultivation suddenly becomes confused and weary, which is a state difficult to fight off. At that very moment, he should arise and bow to the Buddhas or circumambulate the altar. Or else he may take a temporary break, read a few pages of a book, or rearrange some flowers, waiting for his mind to calm down before returning to the altar to resume recitation. So if you're saying meditation is what it is, all right, cool. When you start meditating, you're trying to go in and all this other stuff is going on there. Don't waste your time sitting there about trying to focus or whatever, right? The mind's too active, so go make use of the active mind. And then I'll come back to it when the mind's in a more balanced place. Don't meditate when your mind's in no state like that. Meditation not happening, right? You're just going to be there having the thoughts that you're not supposed to be having, just reoccurring over and over again, because now you're focusing on not having these thoughts, which is making them happen. I don't want. Well, you're going to get it. Right? Focus on what you want. Otherwise, the more he tries to focus his mind, the more scattered it becomes. This is a case of flexibility in cultivation. It is similar to the situation of a commander-in-chief facing an invading army as powerful as a river overflowing its banks. In such a situation, the general should stay on the defensive, consolidating his position rather than charging into battle. Some practitioners feel solitary and isolated when reciting the Buddha's name like a single-note musical piece and grow melancholy and bored. In such cases, they should not hesitate to add mantra or sutra recitation or visualization to their practice. A novice once told the author that in his dreams from time to time, he would see some 30 or 40 persons armed with knives and spears coming at him, striking and slashing him all over. In his daily practice, he would diligently recite mantras, alternating between the Great Compassion Dharma and the 1,000-arm AVALOKITESVARA. AVALOKITESVARA. Mantra, without success, as each time he recited either mantra a few times, he would develop a headache which lasted the whole day. He sought medical treatment to relieve these symptoms to no avail. Knowing that his karma was heavy, the novice vowed to bow to the 3,000 Buddhas in repentance. However, when he entered the main Buddha hall, he saw a huge, tall, fierce-looking man who approached him and pushed him on the floor, preventing him from bowing. For this reason, he came to see the author weeping in anguish and asked, "The sutras teach repentance and cultivation to extinguish bad karma. But if you are prevented from repenting and cultivating, what else are you expected to do?" That the novice must have committed a heavy killing karma and been responsible for many deaths in the past lives. Moreover, he knew that the Great Compassion Dharma and the 1,000-armed Avalokitesvara mantra had a powerful, beneficial effect, while vowing to bow to the 3,000 Buddhas was an all-encompassing, lofty resolution. In this case, however, the novice had made the mistake of just praying and thinking of himself alone, forgetting those whom he had wronged in past lifetimes. Moreover, he was not being flexible in cultivation. This is not unlike a debilitated person suffering a heavy bout of influenza. He should take a mild analgesic to recover little by little instead of beginning to ingest a powerful antibiotic. This, of course, provokes a strong reaction which overwhelms him. Therefore, the author advised the novice to bow each night while reciting the short repentance liturgy, and then kneel to recite the rebirth mantra 21 times. After that, he should repeat the Buddha's name some 500 times, seeking repentance and transfer the merit to all who he had wronged in previous existences, so that they too could swiftly escape the cycle of birth and death. He should continue this regimen for some time, and if nothing untoward occurred, gradually increase the number of recitations. The novice followed the author's advice as expected. His predicament was resolved. So we're looking into when they're talking about the repeating of the mantras and saying Buddha's name, and then when you're in, all these things are what you would say invocations, right? Like you light a candle, you call an ancestor. You go and put a plate of food at a certain crossroads, and then that's for ancestors. You find a tree trunk with a hole in it, and you put an orange in there, you're doing something with the ethers. So that's the same power that we have when we take the lessons that Noble Drew Ali had put in the Quran, right? Everything after all the Jesus stuff is Noble Drew Ali's words. You take all those things and you use those things as your mantras. You use those things as your sutras. You use those things as the things that you're going to be reciting in order to bring yourself from disconnected perspective of pray to our God and then something's going to happen, and we're actually one with the ancestors, being that we understand our status and all that. It's a different place when we say we're going to pray and somebody else who doesn't know about anything about birthrights, and then they say they're going to pray. It's a totally different frequency that's being put out into the universe. And then we know that with, as far as ourselves, you know, the amount of revelations that we've had from a spiritual perspective after coming into this information should prove to us that, yeah, what this man brought is really right and exact, and we should be looking at it from that grand perspective. Not just this little idea, like, you know, anytime, like for example, if you, like we're saying, Buddhist teachings, and then you're going through the teachings, this is with yourself. Take out Buddha, put Noble Drew Ali in there to change the energy of what is being put into the universe. Because as much as we are to honor all true and divine prophets, he mentioned them out of sincerity and out of divine humility, that he's not on the list, but he's a prophet. He said, honor all the true divine prophets and me, because it's expected that Moors are going to look at him from that same perspective, the same conviction that we had for Jesus when we were Christian, the same conviction we have for Noble Drew Ali's teachings, not the man or whatever, because you know, there's not no worship, it's no about no man, but the teachings should be looked at greatly at all times, and recognizing that certain things that teachings have in them are directly related to what Noble Drew Ali presented to us. It's just for us to look at it from that perspective. It's just for us to look at it from Buddha is Noble Drew Ali, Confucius is Noble Drew Ali. Because as soon as we read those people's teachings, we're going to find the parallel teachings in Noble Drew Ali's teachings to confirm to us that, okay, yeah, these guys must be the right guys if their teachings are in harmony with Noble Drew Ali's teachings. If the Moors are taught in time of adversity, you can invoke the protection of Noble Drew Ali by visualizing him. That's the same thing that these people are saying about saying Buddha's name 500 times. They're just doing it in the form of saying the name. Ours is in the form of thought. Because as more as we know man is mind, man is not what he says, man is what he does. Right? Actions is what, the standards is what makes the man. Not the things that he gets from being on a proper standard or in a proper place. Right? There are some questions too. We'll try to hit up some of those. But yeah, this is Buddhism of wisdom and faith. Pure Land Buddhism. So you could look them up. Also, International Buddhist Monastic Institute. Any comments, questions? You can throw those up.
Yeah, I have a comment.
Yeah, Mark.
That I know for me personally, when I'm trying to meditate and, there's like distractions, there's like noise and cars and family and, because, yeah, great, I'd love to be in the hills or the countryside, or the peaceful and quiet ones,
It ain't happening.
So sometimes when I can't really focus, like you said, there's all these thoughts and whatever, kind of about distraction. And I'll just go read or watch a video, and sometimes I'm reading or watching a video and then off into whatever my thoughts, like I'm reading the stuff, but like my subconscious mind is reading, but my mind is somewhere else. It's like I'm thinking about stuff I want to, my desires or what I want to manifest. So for me, whether it's reading or watching a video or something like that, that's kind of a way of meditating, because then your thought is geared to the narrative.
Right.
Sometimes where narrative is saying something, but then you kind of adapt it or you circulate it to your circumstances, and then you kind of put it in a way where it will, like how you want your future or your desires to be related to the same thing.
Right.
You kind of understand what I mean.
Can I comment on that too? Just like how on the chapter where the instructions to the young men,
Yeah.
talks about when you give your heart to the madness of your desires, and through that you enslave your soul, which dries up your fountain of health. You know what I'm saying? So knowing if you're going through certain situations, hey, probably it's because you're giving your heart to something,
Right.
and it's causing your life,
Causing you strain.
not to be happy.
Right. Right.
That's how you can use it.
Right.
That one be for me still.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, wow.
And again, that's the whole thing with why it's important to go through that stuff. You know what I mean? Because when we look at how high esoterically he was, you know what I mean? Like deep. You know what I mean? Change your life tomorrow. You put some of those stuff. Yeah.
Like, this is real.
This is really what's going on. Yeah.
There's so much desire. That's crazy that people give their heart to that. Bro, you're giving happiness away.
You're giving away your happiness.
You're giving joy.
You're just putting it out there.
Yeah.
And then anybody who's on the level to know, now they can, you know what I mean? They'll eat forever.
Yep.
Right? Brother Albicet sent the Morse to check out called Cosmic Spiraling by a modern European by the name of Rudolf Steiner. You heard that name, you already know. You already know you're going to be going in. Rudolf Steiner, Steiner. Cosmic Spiraling. And any other books or reference points that you can find of Rudolf Steiner, feel free to pick those up.
What's it called? Cosmic spiraling?
Cosmic Spiraling. Brother Abdul L. Our dark-skinned melanated brethren, aboriginal to the European continent, are they Moors as well? I know those of us here on the American continent are Moorish American descendants of ancient Moabites, but are they Moorish European or something different? What is their so as when we do our studying, we find the connection through J.A. Rogers, Nature Knows No Colored Line, about the Moorish connection, in this case specifically to Europe. The bloodline that they would tie themselves to would be Moor, because you just check the records over there, and that's all they talk about there. Moors this, Moors that. They don't talk about Moorish Americans over there. They don't talk about, Moorish Europeans or Moorish Celtic, whatever, right? They just talk about Moors over there. And keep in mind that the brothers and sisters that are quote unquote Aboriginal to that side, they would be in the classification of Asiatics, right? Because Europe's not a continent. There's no European continent. But Europe's part of Asia. So the idea of the Moors in Europe and all that stuff, that's a fiction, right? Because there's no Europe like that in that context, right? If we look at like Philippines or even China, Japan, Indonesia, or whatever, right? Those people over there aren't Indonesian and Chinese, and they're Asiatic, because all those places aren't really what it is really. You know what I mean? That whole jurisdiction is what it is, and then those little pockets are whatever they claim as far as their tribal or their quote unquote national identity. Then that's what it is. But those jurisdictions are in a jurisdiction of Orient or Oriental, which encompasses all these different people that have these particular, Asiatic / Africoid features or whatever.
Well, case in point, you mentioned in that particular region, I don't know if most of y'all know what's going on over there right now in Myanmar, Burma. The genocide going on over there right now. There's Burma, a lot of the Muslims.
Yeah, they're dealing with the indigenous.
A lot of
terrible
indigenous people are being. I'm looking into it some more, exactly what's going on, but that's what's happening over in that region, that particular region right now. You found that whenever there's an ethnic cleansing going on, there's people in that particular part of the world.
Yep.
Wherever it is, always the indigenous. Why is that? It's not like only maybe about 150, 300,000 people leaving their homes.
Yeah.
That's huge. You know what I mean?
Again, it's this idea of, once the majority of nations, tribes, whatever, fall because they lose touch with their ancestral support. Whether they start implementing practices that have nothing to do with their culture, start eating stuff that has nothing to do with their culture, whatever, anything that your ancestors didn't do that you're doing is going to deteriorate you if you don't have the necessary things in place to slow down or redirect the deterioration, right? So when we see these things happening, know that it's the colonials extending their reach. You know what I mean? They're letting you know that they're in desperate times if they're going like that against indigenous people. They are running out of places where they can go. And the only thing that, you know, again, it goes back to that thing, like when they used to talk about Africans, indigenous or whatever, natives or savages or whatever. That same stuff what they're doing today. Saying, oh yeah, well, these people, they haven't seen anybody. They don't got phones and stuff like that, and they don't got guns and they don't got whatever. They're happy? Nah.
You know what I'm saying?
No way. No way.
And
those aren't real human beings because they don't have phones and they're disconnected from society and they're so in tune with nature that they're gonna whistle and a bird's gonna come. Right? These people are so desperate right now that, you know, they're doing everything that they can because they really have nowhere to go. Because the awakening is happening everywhere. The awakening is not just happening in America or whatever. The awakening is happening everywhere. When you look at all these floods and all that, right? You know, where the people were in the flooded area, they're gonna have to go somewhere else. That means places are gonna be overpopulated, right? They depopulate to cause overpopulation, because it's still gonna come down to not everybody's gonna be able to get. Some people are gonna have to take the L.
The whole Agenda 21 thing.
Yeah.
They're saying 75% of the population, 25%
Yeah.
in the world.
Like it's like that's not, you know, and again, like we always, you know, we got the teachings of you know, Jordan Maxwell and these people, that when these people say, hey, we found this document saying that we're going to implement whatever program in 10 years, they're probably implementing already. You know what I mean? You're getting it late. These people had this thing working. You know, cats out the bag. Know that it was already going on already. You know what I mean? Like, know that people talking about weather modification, whatever, they've been doing that stuff since who knows how long. We're just happening to now find out. You know what I mean?
And also that about the genocide thing, I saw something online where in Houston right now, they're spraying these chemicals that they claim is to kill the mosquitoes, but they're very toxic and it messes with your nervous system. And the people that are spraying it, the people that are cleaning up, they're wearing masks, like
the hazmat, the suit and all that, yeah.
Just to show you that, right?
Yeah.
And these people are wondering why these guys wearing the suits, like, what the hell are they spraying?
Yeah.
Right. So all people are trying to find out, like, and they're pushing the news, and the news came out with something to say, like, you know, it's very dangerous, so be careful. So they're telling the people, but they're saying it's okay, we're spraying it the same way, and people are like.
But then again too, remember as well that, you know, always keep in mind the placebo effect, where they make people create their own conditions. So they'll say, yeah, these guys are spraying, they got suits on, they're spraying water or whatever. People's mindset is making that water be something contagious or whatever that's going to spread to everybody, because people's mind is going to do that. You know what I mean? Because, you know, if you're spraying something, then that means it could be airborne. It could be airborne, then the guy spraying, like, how far you think you're gonna go to escape this when you take off your stuff? If the stuff is blowing the stuff everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, how are you missing it? You got a suit, you're gonna spray here, and then you get in the truck in the suit, and then you drive down to wherever, and then you take out the suit, now you guys are good. How are you good? How's chemtrails not affecting everybody on the planet? Doesn't matter. The guy who's spraying the chemtrails is breathing chemtrails. You know what I mean? So yeah, things might be happening, but just keep in mind placebo effect. Keep in mind, give you sugar pills, tell you it's tablets, and then you cure yourself, and then they make you think that they did something when they didn't do anything. You know what I mean? They didn't do anything. They knew exactly what they were doing. Right? With regard to Brother Amar, if you could touch this honorable membership, we've got some messages from people who are looking at honorable membership, but thinking that that is some type of proclamation, nationality, paperwork, or something like that. So if you can address just what the long form, what the long form is, and what it applies to with regard to people sending those in.
Again,
because I got messages about, I'm sending in my paperwork. What do you mean your paperwork? Yeah, well, I'm sending my paperwork because I'm going to be an honorary member, so I'm sending my paperwork in. All right, well, we only give out a form. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. The form, you know what I mean? So, I think, the name correction idea on it and all that stuff has people.
Again, just in light of all that's been going on in life and in direct relation to the class that we're having today, what most Moors got to understand and overstand is that those forms are not your savior. Don't for a second think that you send those forms in and everything is fixed the next day for you in terms of fixed. You go to, say you get locked up, whatever, you go to a police station and you give them, oh look, I'm a Moor. That's not what those forms are for. I always state the forms are for studying. Because what most Moors got to understand is, where are they in their mind, their place? For instance, when I ask them their questions like or state or county, all the membership forms and everything it's like they're not studying. The purpose of those forms is to study. We appreciate that Moors send it back or hand them in, right? For us, it helps us to know who's out there, who's being a part of the big like this. It's huge, right? So again, don't think for a minute that the forms are to save you. You have to save you.
You're gonna confuse people at that.
Exactly. The forms are for you to start studying. Understand what an address is. Understand your social insurance number, whatever. Understand what a contract is. All contracts, you don't have to fill out everything. Like I got this message back from somebody. Why do I have to give you guys my social insurance number? You don't have to. Cross it out. Learn how to live within contracts. Learn how to sign contracts. That's what the forms are there to do.
So you mean people aren't gonna be denied if they live within contracts using that? Oh, so they can alter it and they can do what they have to do as far as practicing to learn to live within contracts.
It's a contract. That's why I state study and fill out, not fill out and study. I say study and fill out. Change it however you want to change it. Heck, if you send it back all crossed out, crossed up, whatever, fine. It's just a basic understanding of where we are as a people, knowing who we are, as such. What is your mailing location? On there it says address, change that. That's what the forms are for. That's mainly what the forms are for. Again, forms are not to save you from anything. You have to save you. Filling out those forms, you should have your dictionaries with you. Period. Period. You know what I'm saying? If it takes you 2 years to fill it out, take 2 years to fill it out. That's the whole purpose of those forms. I mean, so like for instance, when I first saw the form, when Cujo first gave me the form, Cujo could back me up on this. I think it took me 6 months to do it. Every week I came and said, Cujo, okay, but what about this? Well, you know, back and did it again. Cujo, but well, went back and did it again. You know what I'm saying? I was like, how come it's taking so freaking long to do this? You know what I mean? But I appreciated doing that because it got me to understand, wait a second here. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that. This is a contract. If this is a contract, just like all the contracts that we do out there, it shouldn't take you 10 seconds to fill out a contract. The person who gave you that contract, okay, what about this? And if they give you if they give you back talk, you shouldn't fill it out. You should not fill it out. You know what I'm saying? Like for instance, when I'm at like some jobs right now, some slaves right now, and I'm filling it out, and they're asking me what I'm doing. Well, this is a contract, right? They say, yeah, but why are you putting that? And why are you putting this? I said, wait a second. You're the one giving it to me, and you don't know why I'm doing this? Change address to mailing location. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'm kind of bordering on, well, we don't want to give you the job type of thing, right? But that's what we all should be doing. Somebody gives you something, a minute to fill it out. It should take you at least 20 to an hour to fill it out. Period. Don't rush it.
Right.
But yeah, that's what the forms are for, to study.
Right. Also, just this is for Moore's own research. Regional Organized Crime Information Center, ROCIC. Regional Organized Crime Information Center. There was a document uploaded on scrib.com/doc, scrib.com/doc/6702-2494, 6702-2494 /ROCIC in all caps, ROCIC hyphen Moorish hyphen nation, scrib.com/doc or /670-22494 /ROCIC hyphen Moorish hyphen nation. Document, you know what I mean? If Morris have, responses to that, feel free to dissect and express disgust for this little research report done by the ROCIC. Brother American L, shout out to all active Moors and the fam within Canaanland. All is well within, Brother Amruki, Brother Gomanako in Ottawa. Peep this out, Kudro, correcting Moors, even on simple logic. And then there's somebody out there, Darrell Phipps L, talking about Moorish Canadians. So like we put it on the record already. Due to the fact that Canada, well, let's just Brother Gomanico's, to the individual that posted it, was Canada does not have a constitution ever ratified by the people. Flips L. You have a descent flag and your country flag. It's a corporation having an SEC number and a foreign state, a de facto government. And this Darrell Phipps, his nationality card says etc. or whatever that's supposed to be. So you have people are in this movement, like Noble Jwali said, since the times of Muhammad or whatever. And then there's people who are against him today that are the same people that were against him in past lives that he lived as a prophet. So recognize that there's always going to be, especially in regard to us, because you know, Canada is some separate entity from everywhere else in North America or whatever, right? Canada is not part of North America. It's its own country, and they have their own flag and their own laws and all that stuff, how these crazy people talk, right? Once you agree as a Moor that the jurisdiction that you're tied to is Canada or city of whatever or province of whatever or ON or AB or MB or DC or whatever like that, you just put yourself in the jurisdiction that we're complaining about that's violating people's rights and abusing people and whatever else. So there's no such thing as Moorish Canadian if people in North America are Moorish American, not Moorish United Statesians. If they're not saying Moorish United Statesians, then we can't say Moorish Canadian. Then okay, fine, there's Moorish Canadians now. Because Moors created that fraudulent jurisdiction that doesn't exist. Because if Jwali said that your nationality is something, and again, just like with the flag, somebody's telling me something different, your nationality is whatever they made up, then you know that people are playing with you. But the only way you're going to know that people are playing with you is if you know. I mean, and in order for Moors to know, Moors have to study. Right? Walter Bay took the family on a trip to the Houston Museum. Right? Houston Museum of Natural Science. I had been telling my wife that I hadn't been in about 15 years, since I was in middle school on a field trip. Back then, King Tut was here. I don't mean a prop show. For years, his body was here in Houston on tour with lots of his stuff. And I remember when he left. I didn't realize till years later how valuable that was to have this info so close. So when my wife found a Groupon, we had to go. The museums around the world have been selling and trading valuables from our ancestors and reproducing and remixing history for years. With my Moorish mindset, I didn't let anything slip and took a bunch of pictures of stuff under different cultures, but the biggest was the Egyptian display and the dinosaurs. The American stuff was limited and nothing going back to the Olmecs or even the Mayan Aztec science. Just clothes, huts, canoes, etc. Primitive. When we got to the Egypt part, all rules of the museum went out the door. I have books on all that they had, plus some, so I was calling out replicas before my wife could read the displays and pointing out mistakes. Pale people in the 3 the 5th dynasty? No way. The Rosetta Stone, the one they say is real, is in the British Museum. I was loud enough to be heard by mostly Europeans and Middle Easterns who were listening but scrambling to stay out of eyesight. When security came, the only thing he had to say was how big of a fan he was of my fez. Nothing about the noise or the flash photography that my wife was sure was going to get us at least a warning. I could go on for days, but I'll leave you with this. I found a small statue in the Asian section. They called it a container for gunpowder from the Batak people of Indonesia, who I had to look up. Indigenous Negrito group of Peninsula Malaysia. Batak people, B-A-T-A-K. It's an all-black statue, on, hands squared in a prayer position, big lips, nose. Our people are everywhere. And like I always tell my wife, you have a different experience when you have your fez on. Peace. So again, that's another one for, you know, the Moors. Don't be shy. Take your little trips and stuff like that. Peace, Moors. Yeah, we'll build. Make sure you take your little trips and stuff like that to these little jurisdictions, you know, museums, anywhere that they got some type of showing of something historical or whatever like that. Go to it, you know, because guaranteed there's going to be something there. Just like the Moor said, went there and he got the Asian stuff with the fez on and all that, so nobody can argue with it. Museum had it, you know. There was some dialogue earlier. So a brother was engaging with some dirty Moors, and they did the, you know, their chest is bigger than everybody else's chest or whatever. So he put out some stuff on them with regard to questioning, based on them saying that they were, quote unquote, a Moor empire, but not the empire of old times. These are just some people that call themselves empire, or Mexican Moor empire to be specific. So the brother's questions that he presented, which they haven't answered yet. All of these so-called Moorish groups out here claiming to be legit with constitutions and independence from the corporate United States occupational tyranny, but where are all the sheriffs? Right? If the claim of being Moors with a constitution and that we're independent or whatever like that, we are the sheriffs. Now, when you look at it from a group perspective, the sheriffs are some appointed people that somebody said, those guys, and then they have a badge and a hat with a little thing hanging down or whatever like that, right? The true sheriffs are the sheriffs. The sheriffs are the Els and Bays. So if we're saying that we're Moorish nation, if we're saying that we're Aboriginal indigenous to the land, then we are the law enforcers here, right? We are the law creators. We are not the followers of people's laws that we know come out of codes that are used to denationalize our people. There's no way that our laws are going to be based in color. There's no way that our laws are going to be statutes or ordinances. Our laws are going to be based on universal principles. Our laws are going to be based in nature. And that's how we're going to be able to have the protection as far as quote unquote, you know, military. Because ask the Haitians, the ancestors look out when you honor them, right? The Haitians know the B system. There was no guns and stuff like that. You just go do your research on the accounts from so-called French wars with Haiti, and did they just use guns and stuff, or were they using voodoo as well in order to beat the so-called Europeans that were trying to do whatever it is that they were trying to do to them? Was their military solely some guys with guns and the whole army theme, or was there something else going on? Right? Where are your liaisons traveling the nation to help set up Moorish science temples in places they do not exist? Right? So these people that are claiming that they're a nation or whatever, and they're going, they have all these different people in Africa or whatever like that that's helping them. How come they're not doing no stuff home? How come all their national activity is not here where they're at? Right? Anybody that takes their so-called sovereignty and then takes it somewhere else to go exercise it opposed to where they're at, they're probably running a fraud. Right? Where are the legal councils? Where are the consular courts? And again, we know that court is society, not a building. So people say, where are the Moorish courts? What happens? Be a Moor, messed up stuff, and see what's gonna happen. Whatever happens for the messed up stuff that you do, court just dealt with you. Because court is society, and society is not just people out there. Society is earth, air, fire, water. You don't know where you're gonna get it from if you go against what this is really about. You can get it from anywhere. Just because everything's tied to this. As far as who's going to be punishing you for your transgressions or whatever. It might not be a being in flesh that gets you back, right? Where are the legal councils, right? CONSILS. That's not a term of Moorish jurisdictions. We wouldn't have legal councils as Moors, because every Moor is a self-consul, CONSUL. Every Moor is really supposed to be handling their own affairs. And the only thing that you need Grand Sheik or Grand whoever for is maybe sign some papers for you, witness something, put a seal on something. Other than that, this is your birthright. This is not something that, you know, there's are working on your behalf like that. It's really you working on your own behalf, and then people are going to be supporting your position, using whatever titles that they got, using whatever, you know what I mean, they have to make sure that you get what it is that you're supposed to get based on your exercising of what it is that you know. So we'll be a backing. So like, for example, when Moore goes, puts down a nationality card, yeah, you know what I mean, whatever. And they're like, what's this? We need to verify what this is. I talk to the manager doesn't know what this is. Well, why don't you call the people who issued it? Them verify what this is. Well, that's a good idea or whatever, you know, you call up whoever. I got this card right here, says, you know, Moorish, we've never seen this before, you know, is this something real? Is this, oh yeah, that's, you know him. You know what I mean? Little short Moor, gray beard or whatever, yeah, that's the guy. Don't worry. He's good. Give him his taxes off and all that stuff. And the stuff is, that's how we would be used. We wouldn't be used as, hi, we're here for, you know, he came in here 2 days ago. You guys didn't do what you're supposed to do because he gave you a nationality card. Hey, what's good? That's not what our position is. Our position is to back you in what you know. You make a claim, you got somebody who is down with that claim that you're making, and your papers, whatever it is that you have based on the claim that you're making, would have the people on it who back you. Because you wouldn't go as an island. You know what I mean? You would go with the lesson is, you know, if you send any type of paper, make sure your flag's on it so they know that it's coming from a nation. Automatic. If the delegate from Turkey sent you something on plain paper and then sent you something with a Turkish flag on it, you probably take Turkish flag one more serious than the one just nothing on it. Same signature or whatever like that. You'll probably question, like, why they send this one on another paper? Why they send this one on a letterhead? Because the flag is letting you know jurisdiction. Flag is letting you know something. So when Moors send their stuff out and they have flags on their things, seals on their things, that's letting these people know that, oh, this people isn't, so there's no need for legal counsels. The paper, they already know that, oh, this person is called, oh, he's writing from a nation. He's not writing from some 501c3 organization or whatever, right? Why are denationalized Moors and nationalized Moors still in prison and being locked up for possession of cannabis when UN Declaration, we have the right to be in possession thereof, Article 24 of Indigenous Rights and Peoples. Well, yeah.
No, sorry. My question is, sorry, I'm sorry to cut you, Wesley. In regards to the jurisdiction, cannabis.
Yeah.
Does it say cannabis in the United?
In the UN thing, I doubt it says cannabis in there.
So.
Right. Coming back again, jurisdiction and what you know. Right. As well, when we're talking about denationalized Moors and nationalized Moors in prison, those are two different jurisdictions. And if you have denationalized Moor in prison or locked up or whatever like that for some cannabis or whatever type of activity, right? That's falling on that individual, because the people who imprison them or lock them up, and where they have the authority to do that. Because the judge is always going to ask you, do you understand? And guy's always going to say, yeah, I understand. And then you just give them jurisdiction now for them to do whatever it is that they want. But of course, if we're talking about people who have a Negro mindset, then that's all they know. So you're not going to get anything other than them getting locked up. Now, when you have nationalized Moors in prison being locked up for possession or whatever like that, if these Moors put their status on the record prior to them being locked up, know that this is a campaign against Moors. It's not against that one individual because they did whatever. Just like with SPLC, they put stuff out like that, talking BS about Moors. They're talking all Moors, whether you're dirty, whether you go to temple, whether you go to your meetings, don't go to your meetings, whether you got a nationality card, it's plastic, whether you got a nationality card that's laminated, doesn't matter. Red fez, orange fez, blue fez, they don't care. They're trying to smear all the Moors using one Moor's negative, whatever, right? So, don't look at be involved in the Moorish movement because, you know what I mean, of possession of something or whatever like that. Like half those people that's doing time for possession of cannabis shouldn't even be in there, especially if they say it's legal now. Why are they in there? Matter of fact, they should be letting people go who have anything to do with cannabis charge. They should be letting them go. Everybody, no matter how much they're charged with carrying. All those people should be let go. If they say weed's legal, okay, well, everybody who has a weed charge should get let go from prison. Like, what do you mean? Oh, well, but if you're working in a democracy, if you think that this is a real legit government and stuff like that, and then whatever like that, then good luck with that. When it's democracy, these people are gonna rape you, rape your resources, rape your grandma, everybody else, take their land, give it to the church and all that type of stuff, under the guise that they're somebody that's legitimate and has the power to do that. When really they don't. Their position is, like Brother Latif was saying, let's cheat our land, right? Lock us up for a dime or whatever, but they can sell dimes or whatever out here. Like brothers gonna have weed, selling weed. Because they're not getting their little 10%, 15% or whatever from some tax or whatever, he's gonna go to jail, but they can sell weed.
Well, just to add to that, look at all these dispensaries that they shut down. The next day they're up again, just to show you that nobody. It's not that serious. It's on you. If you take it as it's legal, or you're doing something wrong, or it's bad, or it's a crime, then it's going to affect you that way. Because those dispensaries, they get shut down, they open back up, and all those people, at the end of the day, through the process, all those charges get thrown out anyways.
Right. And keep in mind that none of those people are Asiatic.
Exactly.
No different than DVD bootleg guy. They're gonna go on raid Pacific Mall or whatever. Then tomorrow they're open again, selling bootleg DVDs again. How many selling bootleg? You guys just got raided yesterday. Oh, no worry about it. No worry about it, okay? You want a DVD? What do you mean, don't worry about it? You guys got raided. Like these guys, I saw these guys leaving with boxes of DVDs from your stuff. How are you open again the day after? You know what I mean? Somebody has some type of hookup, something like that, or it's really not. It really wasn't a raid like that.
So if you go down for it, that's on you, because especially now that they claim it's legal, like you're gonna be dumb to say you're gonna go to jail for something that's legal. That's the way I'm looking at it. Like, you know what I mean? They say next summer, July is gonna be,
Yeah.
all for one, all for all,
Yeah.
It's confusing,
So
confusing people.
yeah, but that's what they do.
That's the whole point.
That's the whole point.
You know what I mean?
Right. So if you as a Moor, is gonna make them lock you up, then that's on you, because just to challenge their stuff to say it's legal. So how am I going to jail? Not even saying you're standing on just jurisdiction. You know what I mean? But you're standing on just their stuff. Like, you know what I mean? How the hell am I going to jail when it's legal? How am I going to jail when you're something?
Right.
So it's on use your mind. You know what I mean? It's common sense.
Straight. Where are the Moorish councils to help Moors deal with corporate fraud, forcing people to have registration on their private automobiles, license plates, car insurance, like when the United Nations clearly state that no human shall be forced to associate, which means we can't be forced to contract, considering we have to agree to contracts to get the aforementioned items. Is it not lawfully required that we have the said items while traveling? Article 20, Declaration on Human Rights. So again, it's going back to that thing of what is your perspective? If your perspective is that the UN, or if the perspective is that there should be Moorish councils to help Moors deal with the corporate fraud of registering private automobiles, whatever, because UN says we don't have to do anything, but they're making us contract. Same thing what the Moors saying. If you contract, that's on you, because contract's voluntary. You don't have to contract. You don't have to register your ride with them. But majority of people, when they put the finance down and then they get the ownership, they don't realize that it's already registered. It's not yours. I don't care if the ownership says your name on it in the free national name or whatever. That's still not yours if it's registered to them. And then once it's registered to them, then that means that it's their property, not your property, because you volunteered it to them. Like you openly gave it to them under the guise of you're registering it in order to protect it or have it in a database so that if you have to check the license and some matches up and stuff like that. That's not what it's about. You just sold your stuff to them. And again, if the Declaration of Rights is being used as a reference, don't forget Article 15, everybody has a right to a nationality. So don't think that you're black and you could play around with UN stuff and You know what I mean? You're African. You came over here on a slave ship, but you went to recognize something. They ain't recognizing jack. Because you have no status to get recognized. Right? Moorish liaisons to help enforce the rights of indigenous peoples as it pertains to getting our land back, establishing housing, businesses for our people, with states must take effective measure in the same special measures in ensuring our economic growth and development. They would do that if we were Moors. Majority of people are Negro, black, colored people out here, and they already know you give a Negro 50 million, they're just gonna get it back anyways. So even why even give them anything? They're gonna get it back anyway. So why are we even gonna give you reparations when you're gonna give it back to us? And then they're gonna have karmic debt because they know that the people's mindset is warped. But they're gonna give them 50 million about here's your reparations. We're sorry about all the stuff that whatever like that. You know these people have a messed up mindset where you're gonna give them reparations. You think these people are getting these guys karma? They're not getting their stuff. They rather not give them reparations and take what comes with that, which they know nothing's gonna come to that because these people are cowards or whatever like that. They never identify the enemy, and the enemy is always some boogeyman closet guy. Never identify who is raping them. Never identify who shot their whoever. There's always some agency or some force or some, you know, some guy with a badge on, or, you know, L. Johnson shot somebody. That ain't nobody. Not identifying anybody. Just venting. Just mad.
But the funny thing is, though, that our people, that's all they're waiting on. They're waiting on one day the so-called colonizers' conscience will.
Peace and love, more. How are you?
So they're waiting that the colonizers, one day their conscience is going to make them change, and one day they're going to give us reparations, and one day. But reality, they can't give property anything. You have to be part of the human family. Being black is a property. It means your property. So even if they wanted to, they can't. That's just international law, I would say. So if our people want reparations and want tomorrow, we have to be the proper person, right? And then we could demand reparations if that's the case. But as black people, when you're really brown, they're laughing at you. Like,
it ain't happening.
What the hell is wrong with you people? Like, you know? Not to sound like an asshole, but that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? If you want, we could get reparations tomorrow, but our people have to be a proper person. Just us.
They're not giving nothing to blacks. Negroes, coloreds, Africans, slaves, or whatever, they're not getting nothing. All you Moorish groups claim to be legitimate, but where are your farmers? You know, it goes back again to that thing that as soon as people start saying Moorish groups, you already know that they have a warped perspective as to what they're looking at. Because this is not groups, even though there's different pockets of people that call themselves whatever, you know what I mean, relative to Moorish history or culture. This is not, those aren't groups. Those people are part of the Moorish nation. I don't care what they claim that they are. They claim under, or whatever like that. If they got L or Bay, they're a part of the Moorish nation, right? And in the Moorish nation, there are farmers. In Jacksonville, Florida, they got a Moorish farm there, right? Mad Moors made their backyard farm. So it ain't not because, you know, you don't see a guy with a fez on a tractor doing the whatever, and then you got the plane spraying the stuff with the guy in the fez means we don't have no farms. Right? Like, you know, you're a nation, right? How are you a nation but can't feed your people? Again, as Moors, we can go to any nation out here. Fez is up. You got something for the Moors? Right now we need whatever. Moors, we'll get some stuff. Guaranteed. Now go into some European colonizer. Go into all the other Asiatics who know that we're Moors, who see us fezzes up and they say Islam and all that just because they know what the culture is. If it got down to the get down, I'm pretty sure we can get some people that would say, here's some whatever. Once we approach them as Moors, of course, if we approach them in new black color, they ain't nothing for us to get. That's fiction, right? Do you have a grand treasury within your group? Again, looking at it from this group perspective, it's already worked, right? If so, show us Moors who don't have things set up the proper way to do so. Forget treasuries, forget businesses, forget consulting firms, forget whatever it is Moors are creating to say Moors have something. If you want something right now, build a school. Start a study group. How about do that? If you know you're talking about show us what the Moors have, and you know Moors need to show us how to set up something. You don't need no Moors to teach you how to set up a study group. You get a TV, a DVD player on there, or whatever like that. You get some books from one of these Moorish websites, and you call a meeting. Anybody who wants to learn some stuff about Moors or whatever, come on down to the basement or the library or the community center or the whatever like that. You know, please bring fruits, water, or whatever like that. Starts at 7 o'clock. Whoever shows up, those guys want to learn, then there you go, you start your study group. Do that for 3-4 months. See how serious people are, and then you go to the next level, which is let's get some space and make this study group something that's real, instead of just some little meeting stuff that we're doing. Let's actually, you know what I mean, get some work done. And then that's what it is. And then from there, that would grow into other stuff, because, you know, it's just gonna do that. But it has to start with a learning institution. Because if we're calling ourselves scientists, and then science means study, then we should have somewhere that we do that before we do anything. Because everything else can be done wherever. You know what I mean? Like we say.
That's the only thing missing. We have the skill to do everything else.
Everything's already there.
To do everything else, but that way.
Right?
Just to add to that as well,
yeah,
the Prophet already said that one day the Europeans going to go back to Europe anyways. So all this stuff is going to be ours.
Right.
All these buildings, all these whatever, skyrise, everything's going to be ours.
Everything's going to be back in the hands of the Moors.
Like when they left China, when they left Africa, in certain places, they took up all the railroad tracks, broke down buildings. You think they're going to leave us this?
Well, they're going to have to leave, because soon or later, they're going to be all dying.
In reality, that was the case.
They're all going to be dying of skin cancer, because as you can tell already, the weather is changing.
Yeah.
Right?
But they're not on the back tomorrow.
No, I'm not saying tomorrow. I'm just saying. I mean, we don't know when the prophecy is going to. Well, the prophet,
we're going to force them back. Just
right? The prophet prophesied, right? Where they have to leave. Because
it's only way to you have to leave somewhere when you're forced to leave somewhere.
No, but again, force doesn't have to be, you know what I mean? Arms. You know what I mean?
It could be skin cancer. They're over here. They're all dropping a skin cancer.
Because disillusion thinking when all the Moors wake up and say, "Hey guys, we're waiting for you guys to do this. Our bags are packed.
Yeah,
See you tomorrow."
Well, check this. An Arab made a comment on one of Brother Asir's videos. See what you guys are doing out there or whatever, and we're just waiting for all you guys to wake up. Pale Arab.
That's one thing.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
That's not all people think it's.
That's one that's willing to talk up. But trust that all of them got that mindset. They got that same mindset that he got.
Yeah, no, I know there's a lot
of
nations that want us to wake up. I
Yeah.
get that point, but I'm saying even regardless, they're not going to sleep like that. You know,
No,
that's
but
my point.
yeah, well, I mean, you know, like when we look at them leaving, like they've been doing that. Like it's documented that they're renouncing their U.S. citizenship right now, going back to Europe. Because Trump is racist and Trump is the devil and stuff like that. They're not going to impeach him, so we're leaving. Like, all right, do your thing. You know what I mean? If Trump's going to be the reason why you guys leave, then hey, that's what it is. Then you'll do your thing.
And you got the ones
You know what I mean?
with Trump.
Yeah, you got the ones that are with him. But again, it goes back to that same thing that those ones who are with Trump, they know what's up. They know that ain't there where at White House and all that. You know what I mean? They know what's up. You know, but again, there's not enough of us. They look out the window, they see one fez walk by. You know,
Not ready yet.
like Mars ain't ready. We'll be here for a little bit longer. You know what I mean? But trust, if these people realized like that they're not Negro, black, colored, or whatever, and then just said, okay, let's just do Moors for a week and see. Yo, these people, like, why would they stay? You know what I mean? Like, they'll know, like, yeah.
They've been desperate from 1933.
Yeah, you know?
But they're hanging on with taxes and everything else,
right?
Jails and everything else.
But and then again,
and
they're hanging on because of the Negro. Only hanging on because of the Negro. Negro's the only one that's keeping these people still in them or whatever. When these dudes been supposed to pull the plug or whatever, you know what I mean, and let it rest in peace. Keeping this thing alive on some machine. You know what I mean? And the machine is these Negro, black, colored people who don't know who they are. They think they know who they are, but that's not happening. You know. When I was in the military and another unit needed help, we sent liaisons to that unit to help set up what we have already done. Where are Moorish liaisons traveling the country to help set things up? So, for example, it's not the liaisons that's the problem. The problem is when the liaisons go somewhere and set something up and then nothing continues. Because people don't want to commit to something that they can't see where this is going to go. Instead of just committing to it because you ain't got nothing else going on, like what else is going on? Ain't nothing else going on. Why not commit to you know what I mean? Like, it's like, for example, when myself, whoever gets a call to go do a lecture somewhere, that's not about information or whatever. That's a liaison going to go tell these people wherever they're at that they don't have access to this or whatever. This is what you're supposed to do. And then you give them the stuff, and then you leave them to do whatever it is that, you know what I mean? They're going to do whatever they want with their birthright. It's their birthright. You know what I mean? They're just to drop a little key, throw some seeds in the soil, put some water, and you're on your own with the garden after that. You know what I mean? If worse comes to worse, you might be called back 2 or 3 times to certain places because they recognize what it is that they got, and they want to, you know what I mean, cultivate this thing, right? So they take it from that perspective. The majority of people that are in certain places that get introduced to Moorish science, 99% of the time, those people who set that thing up like that, they get left on their own. They get left hung out to dry by the people who supposedly are in support of whatever it is that's going on. So everybody likes to come to the thing as the big name and shake hands with the big name guys in town or whatever like that. After that guy leaves, they don't realize that the big name guy who got brought to town was brought to town by somebody who's obviously a big name guy if the big name guy is going to come check this guy. But they don't recognize that, you know, whoever was brought to teach left things with these people for them to do what it is that they're supposed to do. And that, well, when's the guy coming again for the, what do you mean? The guy that came just left the guy who's your neighbor all the stuff. Recognize that individual for the big guy now. Since they're the ones that brought whoever and made whatever happen go down, just recognize them. Don't worry about the big guy that they brought. You know what I mean? That's like what Garvey said, canonize your own saints. Well, you got God next to you, or you recognize some God from some other place. When God right next to you that you could recognize, and then you get the same stuff, probably more than what you would get from the God that you're bringing from some foreign land or whatever. So there's been Moorish liaisons going around. You know what I mean? There's been Moorish liaisons letting people know about the nationality and the birthrights, implementing certain things, having people wherever they went have the keys to implement things, and these people implemented it, and the people there flopped everything because they didn't have, you know what I mean, the foresight to see what was going down. You know what I mean? Like we said, man building the ark, and everybody floods. Now everybody wants to help build the ark. Well, the ark's built already. Sorry, you're swimming. Like it's not. That's just what it is. You get down getting on the ground floor, or don't enter the building. You know what I mean? Because trust, when you have the building and stuff like that, and then start talking about, well, you know, nationality card only could enter and stuff like that. Then people are going to be, well, what do you mean? I thought we're all Moors and all. What do you mean? All of a sudden, you guys, everybody's Moors. You guys were Moors last week. Last week, you guys were blacks and having Caribbean stuff and going to jump up and down the street and stuff like that. Now that things are going back into the hands of the Moors, now you want to be Moors. You know what I mean? And then we're supposed to bring you in with your warped mind or whatever. You're coming out some Negro, black, colored. Now you're Moors, you know what I mean? Frantic, whatever. And we're supposed to take y'all serious. Sorry, you should have been paying your dues or whatever. You can be taken serious. You know, you should have been studying so that, you know, when you study, do your meditation, all that stuff, you raise up your energy, raise up your Kundalini energy, throat chakra into pineal gland and crown chakra and stuff like that. And you start walking and you have a halo. And people see you coming from way down there, honking their horn, hey, Moors, or whatever like that, waving at the Moors while they're passing by and stuff like that. You know that something's going on. You know that the individual is vibrating on high. You got people that, you know, they would denounce this to the bone until they actually meet a Moor with a fez on or with a turban on. They were just online all the time for it. Man, this is some BS or whatever. Let them meet a Moor. And then she changed them to make them go study or whatever like that. After they're talking all this BS. And then you have the people who fight it. You know what I mean? Who've been told, but they don't want nothing to do with this. You know, this is some Arab, you know, Moors enslaved their people, whatever. You know, whatever. It is what it is. There are Moors out here who they're about their birthright, stand on their birthright, and that's what it is. Right?
Enslaving people right now.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that they're not even concerned about. That's cool. You know what I mean?
They're gonna pay them $100,000, $200,000 for a lecture.
Right.
To hear how nigger they are.
To hear how nigger they are. And then people leave like, yeah, more nigger than they came. Right. Brother Stern Bay asks, is there a national convention of Moors happening annual that is not directly associated with MST official bodies? The conventions that have happened like that, who are on a unity mindset that will say, a year from now we're having a convention at wherever, and whoever shows up, then, you know, the festivities of the convention. Doesn't show up, then you missed it. See you next year, or, you know, that might be the only one, because, you know, the ability for Moors to do things really falls on the facilitators of what's being done. There ain't nothing out there really for Moors to get the support unless they support their own stuff.
Yep, you're right. Like, you know, banks, for instance, because when they start implementing chips, everybody, it's either you have the chip or you can't get your money out. But for us, at least all you need is a nationalization card.
Right.
You know? It's either get the card or the chip.
He's the one.
That's what's gonna break down to.
And again, it's like, you know, people are warmed up already because every card has a chip. So everybody's already warmed up to accepting just swipe.
Yep.
I mean, whether it's put your eye on the freaking thing or whatever, put your fingerprint, just swipe your hand, whatever. People are already, you know, like for example, like, you know, they have the like they have it so set up right now where, you know, they have the tap and go. You don't have to swipe now. You just tap and you go. Yeah, that's stuff right there. That's it right there. Like manifested. Seen it in our lifetime that the chip is here. I mean, the on the way chip and then the actual chip, because there's people right now that actually took the chip now, right? Putting chip in their children if they go missing and stuff like that, like, you know, yeah, right? Because, you know, you don't got milk cartons anymore. You know, it's only bag milk, right? So they need to find another way to save the children, because you can't be putting people's faces on the bag milk. The carton milk, you know, is extra advertising because black and white pictures, so you can't really see who it is really. So you can't really put it on that, you know. The milk's gonna be $10 if they start putting people's face on milk carton, because, you know, you gotta print the color, right? And then that has to be separate from the actual, you know, carton package. You know what I mean? Because it's a different face every time. So, you know, they're not going through all that for what? You know?
You're the ones get their chips.
Right. We just want to open up if anybody has any questions relative to anything at all. You could post those questions right now. Any weekly testimonials? Anyone's got anything from the week? I know Noir must have something. I know you bumped into somebody this week, told you something.
Just like the other one.
Good.
Just play it up. Somebody send me that.
It's the latest innovation that's drawing worldwide attention.
See, that's why we have more out here that's smarter or whatever.
Paper snacks in the break room.
We came across this and saw it. Is the latest innovation that's drawing worldwide attention.
It could be easy. It really was. I didn't really feel anything, to be honest.
It's a Wisconsin company offering its employees a microchip plant. How the party to kick off the new program. Around 50 employees at 3 Square Market gathered to get the microchip. It's about the size of a grain of rice and gets implanted into the hand using a syringe. Participating employees will be able to use it to open doors, log into their computers, and pay for snacks in the break room.
We came across this and saw it being used in other societies. We said, why not us?
Why not us? That's the attitude here at 3 Square Market in River Falls. The software engineering company has taken the tech world by storm by offering to microchip employees
An opportunity that we saw to really provide something to society.
President and CEO Patrick McMullen has been working on this project since January. Employees aren't required to get the chip. It's completely voluntary.
Big deal.
Completely voluntary.
The company offered me the opportunity to get chipped, and I agreed. Not too bad. Yeah, just a pinch. Yeah, pretty easy. Okay.
Convenience, in a lot of ways, convenience. Really eliminating what I have to carry in my pockets.
Employee Tony Dana says the chip will be used for basic tasks like getting in and out of the building, logging onto his computer, and buying snacks in the break room.
And then to finalize your payment, you'll put your RFID chip, hold it against it. Now my UD card that's identified with the RFID chip is asking if I'd like to put the $6 on my chip. So yes.
Since word got out about the chips, 3 Square has been contacted by hospitals, universities, even U.S. and foreign governments about the technology.
Imagine being able to travel without a passport, no worry about losing it. Just hold your hand up and then all the documentation comes out.
The company says this particular chip is not capable of GPS, but they admit that could be the future. In River Falls, Tim Elliott, WISN 12 News.
3 Square says the microchips are made in Taiwan. The company ordered 60 of them. The cost of each chip is believed to be about $50. The size of a brick.
Right? So it's already going down. Volunteer. You're right. You volunteer. You know what I mean? They're not etched in stone or whatever. Volunteer. Right? Again, one more thing with regard to the idea of the UN declarations. Remember that UN declarations are merely declarations. It's not law or nothing like that. It's the world coming to the realization that there are people on the planet that are classified as Aboriginal and Indigenous, and they have certain rights that can't be infringed on. But they're only not going to be infringed on by de jure people. Corporate people, de facto people, colonial governments, they don't recognize that stuff. That's why they're doing what they're doing in New Papua or whatever with the indigenous people there. Because they're really not down with it like that. Because the people have abandoned those things for so long that they become non-existent. The people have abandoned enforcing the Constitution, so these people think that there probably isn't a Constitution. Because the only people who's going to enforce it is the people. It's not going to be the government that's enforcing the Constitution on themselves. Why would they do that? Right? So remember that, you know, when we use these things, Declaration of Rights and all that stuff, it's a reference point for those to know where it is that we stand. Right? But that's not some law, because when you go check the UN and the League of Nations and all that stuff, it's individual Europeans that founded those, not nations. And found the UN. You know, nations come together and said, yeah, we're going to found this thing called the UN, and then the world is going to work. Individuals founded those. So don't look at it so serious like law. It's not really that. It's a reference point for people to, for the so-called Aboriginal Indigenous people to know that all these people know what your rights are. They put it in UN declarations, and they're corporate people. Clearly they know something. If they're going to put all that out, 50 how much ever articles or whatever, talking about the rights of indigenous people, and then the indigenous people, even though the thing says rights of indigenous people, the indigenous people choose not to have nationality and want to know how come nobody's respecting the UN declaration. Why would they respect the UN declaration if you don't even have the qualifications of the UN declarations to make you be recognized? Right? Everybody wants to be some corporate whatever. You know what I mean? It's not about corporate. It's about being our Aboriginal Indigenous self. It's about self-realization of what our ancient foremothers and forefathers were, which again, we'll put this out too. If you haven't, make sure you go watch Free State of Jones. So that movie lets you know. That movie goes into Free State of Jones. Yeah. Wow. It's on Netflix.
He's got my internet back.
Yeah. Free State of Jones.
With Dan, Ryan,
right?
Normal TV, not working.
So we can have perspective that these people already know what's up. And there's enough keys in the movie for the dumb guy to realize that it's really actually about handling your own stuff, especially when you realize that the people who are supposed to be handling your affairs or whatever are coming, trying to free state, yeah. Because the whole thing is about you know, quote unquote free people, right? Who they're living their own life normal. Then all of a sudden, after the war, certain people are coming and demanding them, you know what I mean, give up the corn, give up the whatever. What did you plant last year? All right, well, we need those. Well, you got a little something under it. Oh, you're hiding stuff, right? Well, we're gonna take all this stuff or whatever like that because you know what I mean. And them saying, hold on a second, these guys just gonna come. So we put the stuff in the ground. They come and take. Now, forget all that stuff. We're gonna start standing up for our stuff because this is our stuff. Together, you know what I mean. People were making jokes like, so like when the general, colonel, or whoever was going around trying to find out, you know, like how we're gonna handle these guys or whatever. He's talking to different people in the community, you know what I mean? You know them or whatever like that. Yeah, you know, they're around the hill or whatever, you know what I mean? So they're coming from some perspective of, well, you know, we got to do something about them, you know, and they'll put down like the case of liquor or whatever, you know, got to do something about them, you know. So we're hoping that the people can help us do whatever, you know what I mean? Because, you know, and there, whatever, you know, and they're making references to them like, oh, you mean the people who have the army? You mean the people who, you know what I mean? And they're giving them this like big stature or whatever. Then the government people are like, no, you mean, no, they're just a company or whatever. No, they're not really that big or whatever like that. When these mans they have all these other, you know, they're going state to state to state, taking over the states that are doing exactly what, you know what I mean? And then once they take over the state, now those people become part of the whatever, and then they go to the next guys. Who else getting violated? Oh yeah, we're getting violated over here. All right, we're gonna send the guys over, you know what I mean? We got 100 guns. How much you guys got? 20? All right, we'll put our 20 with yours, and then we'll come over. And you know, we talked to the Indians on the next whatever, and some black guys and stuff like that. They said that they'll come join and they will come defend your stuff. And then they did that. They took over all these states or whatever, and then, you know, but don't want to spoil the movie, but it's a good one, right? Free State of Jones. There was one more last question. Indian Bay. I'm from Minnesota territory. Can I still be a part of your temple? So how our temple works is like when people get their status in society or whatever, and then they just, you know, because of who they are, they get an honorary doctorate from some school they never went to, and they even get to go and walk across the stage and stuff like that. Yeah, you know, thanks for a doctorate or whatever like that. They didn't go to school there, but they got doctorate. It's honorary. Perspective with us that so many people outside of Canaanland had no temple and whatever like that where they're at, but they watch our classes, that we said, okay, well, you know, we might as well have these people as honorary members since they've been in class and they study and they, you know, they're studying from the same whatever that we're studying from, and they don't have temples where they're at, where we're opening up ours to them so that they can have this honorary membership, because, you know, there's this thing going around that you're not a Moor unless you're in a temple, and you have to be a temple to be in a Moor. You're not a temple, you're not a real Moor and all that stuff. So, you know, now people can say, you know, oh yeah, I'm a Moor, you know, land temple, which is gonna give them, you know, get more backlash, you know, because now they were Canaanland, who, you know, these green fez Moors and all that stuff, and these guys that are let sisters wear fezzes, and you know, yeah, well, you know, again, like, well, they might know, but you know, they're going based on, you know, Noble Juali said red fez in whatever literature. You know what I mean? Picture of Noble Juali doesn't have green fezzes and, you know, white fezzes.
Where the whole green and white come from?
Huh?
Where the whole concept of
no, it's just like brown and blue. You know what I mean? Just colors, you know, they got red Nikes, orange Nikes, pink Nikes, you know what I mean? Like same stuff. Now, yeah, you can go into some higher degrees with it, but then that's going into the club whatever. You know what I mean? We're not playing club. We're doing that. This is birthright. So you might have a red turban one day. It doesn't necessarily be white. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, especially if Juali said, you know, sisters, you know, make sure your turban is the color of the rainbow or whatever, you know, then why wouldn't fezzes be every color? Why would fez be one color and turbans every color? Right? Doesn't even make sense. But you're gonna have people that don't have the opportunity to learn, but they want to be connected to this. You know what I mean? And they've got, and not only have they not experienced temples where they are, but when they go to other places to inquire about temples, they'll tell them, well, you gotta, kiss right here before you come inside. And,
Wow.
You can't come inside because, like, you don't accept those genes in here and stuff like that. Crazy stuff. And again, this is people's birthright. This is not club stuff. This is not stuff that they can actually do that. If you come here, you got to wear a red tie with a white shirt. In order to come into our building, that's all we accept in our building. You know what I mean? On whatever day, we have a little hour, 30 minutes where people on the outside come in, and they can look or whatever like that, but they can't stay because, this is not for them. This is for white shirt, red tie people. But this is birthrights. This is everybody's stuff. Everybody should be able to walk in the door and get the information.
Even rags.
You know what I mean? Rags. Naked. Don't matter. It's birthrights. Right? So Islam to all the Moors. Chat muftis for holding it up. Islam to everybody here. Remember next week we're gonna be at the hair show next week.
What's that again?
5 Garamond Court. That's Don Mills and Eglinton Japanese Canadian Cultural Center.
Yeah, okay.
Next Sunday. I think that's a holiday thing. I think it starts like 12 or something like that.
The museum?
No, it's they just have hair show vendors, not hair show vendors, natural hair product vendors and stuff like that. Products and what I mean, like whatever else they got. Sometimes they have fashion shows or whatever. So it's definitely something to check out. We've been there past like 7 years or whatever like that, because his sister Stephanie that we went to school with. So you know what I mean? We always give her our 100% support because
we need stuff
been doing it. Yeah, been doing
natural
it. You know what I mean? Natural things. You know what I mean? So and they've been doing it for a little while, and it's a very good turnout. So with that, we'll just close out. Nobody has anything else. So Islam Moors, peace and love. Let's close out with the prayer and 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through his holy prophet. Noble Ali. Islam. Ashe. It's on it. Islam Moors, peace and love.